7 mind games women play when they're sexually attracted to you, and how to win everyone, psychology tricks. Attraction isn't loud. It whispers, tests, and waits to see who's paying attention. When a woman feels genuine sexual attraction toward a man, she rarely announces it outright. Instead, she communicates through nuance, small psychological tests designed to probe your confidence, awareness, and emotional strength. These behaviors aren't accidental, they're instinctive signals rooted in desire. She may seem unpredictable at times, warm one moment, distant the next. She might tease, challenge you, or subtly introduce competition. To many men, this feels confusing or even frustrating. But beneath the surface, there's intention. She's not trying to confuse you for fun, she's gauging whether you can stay grounded when emotions rise. These mind games aren't about control or manipulation. They're about intensity, about heightening attraction and seeing whether you can lead without chasing, remain calm without withdrawing, and stay confident without needing validation. Most men misread these moments and assume they're being rejected, when in reality, they're being tested. If you fail to recognize what's happening, the opportunity quietly slips away. But once you understand the psychology behind these behaviors, everything changes. You begin to see that she's not pushing you out of her world. She's inviting you deeper, watching to see if you're strong enough to stay centered. In this guide, we'll break down the 7 mind games women often play when they're sexually attracted to you and exactly how to respond so you come out ahead every time. 1. The push-pull game. One of the most misunderstood yet powerful dynamics in attraction is what many people casually call the push-pull game, and when you understand it through real female psychology, it stops feeling confusing and starts feeling almost predictable. Because when a woman is sexually attracted to you, she may lean in hard at first, strong eye contact, relaxed laughter, light touches that feel intentional, energy that says she's present with you. Then, almost without warning, she shifts, grows distant, replies slower, seems distracted, or suddenly cools off. That change can feel jarring if you don't know what's happening. But don't panic, don't overthink, don't assume rejection. This pattern is rarely random and almost never accidental. It is a live test of emotional steadiness, not a punishment. Attraction at this stage isn't about charm or clever lines. It's about whether you can stay grounded when the temperature changes. Because the moment she pulls back after being warm is the moment she's watching closely to see how you respond. Whether you chase for reassurance, whether you start explaining yourself, whether your mood collapses, or whether you stay relaxed and self-contained. That response tells her far more than anything you could say. Attraction thrives on tension handled well, not tension avoided. This is where many men lose their footing, not because they lack value, but because they mistake uncertainty for danger and rush to close the gap instead of standing comfortably where they are. Be clear about this. The push creates uncertainty. The pull creates comfort. The alternation between the two creates emotional charge, which is why this dynamic feels so intense and why it keeps replaying in your mind. The brain doesn't obsess over what is fully available. It focuses on what feels just out of reach. When you understand that, you stop taking the behavior personally and start responding intelligently, using psychology tricks rooted in awareness rather than manipulation. Don't chase the pullback. Don't interrogate the silence. Don't flood her with attention to stabilize your nerves. That signals that your center of gravity is external, and attraction weakens when your balance depends on someone else's reactions. But when you stay calm, lightly amused, and engaged with your own life, something interesting happens. Your lack of urgency communicates emotional maturity without you ever having to say it, and that steadiness feels safe and intriguing at the same time, which is a powerful combination in female psychology. Think of it this way. When she leans in, enjoy it fully, but don't cling. Be present without attaching your self-worth to the moment. When she leans out, give her space without disappearing. Remain warm but unavailable to emotional turbulence. Maybe add a playful tone or a relaxed tease instead of a serious check-in, because humor signals confidence and ease is magnetic. That is how you win the push-pull without trying to control it. Winning here doesn't mean outplaying her. It means not being destabilized by the game at all. That alone changes the dynamic. Once she realizes you don't tilt under pressure, her curiosity deepens, her attraction sharpens, and the push often shortens while the pull becomes more consistent. Be aware that this cycle also explains why some men find themselves thinking obsessively about certain women long after brief encounters. The mix of warmth and distance creates emotional contrast, and contrast makes memories stick. But you don't have to be trapped by that loop if you understand it, because knowledge restores choice, and choice restores calm. This is where psychology tricks stop being tactics and start being perspective. The real skill isn't guessing her next move. It's regulating your own response. Men who master that don't just navigate attraction better, they carry themselves differently everywhere. Don't label the behavior as rejection too early. Don't assume disinterest without evidence. Don't rush the pace to soothe uncertainty. Attraction unfolds in waves, not straight lines, and resisting that truth only creates friction. Stay engaged in your purpose, your routines, your friendships, your momentum, because a full life acts as emotional ballast, and ballast keeps the ship steady in shifting water. Understand this deeply. When a woman tests emotional stability, she's not asking for perfection. She's asking for presence, consistency, and the ability to stay open without losing yourself. When you demonstrate that, you answer her unspoken question before she ever voices it. This is how to fall in love without losing power, how to fall in love without anxiety running the show, and how to fall in love while remaining anchored in who you are. That quiet strength is what attraction responds to over time. Remember, the push-pull game isn't about control or superiority. It's about resonance, rhythm, and response. Once you stop fighting the rhythm and start moving with it, the game loses its teeth and becomes a conversation instead of a challenge. Use psychology tricks with restraint. Respect female psychology without fear. Let how to fall in love be guided by composure rather than impulse. When you stay centered, you don't just pass the test, you redefine it. And that is what draws her in. Not louder effort, not forced intensity, but the calm certainty of a man who knows where he stands and doesn't need constant confirmation to remain there. 2. The jealousy trigger. Another classic mind game women play when they're sexually attracted to you is what I call the jealousy trigger. And if you've ever felt that sudden internal spark when she casually mentions another man, laughs a little longer at someone else's joke, or drops a compliment about another guy's looks, then you already know exactly how real this moment feels. At first, it seems harmless, almost accidental. She says a name in passing. She smiles while telling a story. She doesn't linger on it. But inside you, something lights up. Your attention sharpens. Your posture changes. That reaction is not random. That is the point. When a woman introduces competition, real or imagined, she is not trying to provoke chaos. She is testing emotional steadiness. She is asking a quiet but serious question. Can this man remain centered when his status feels challenged? You must understand this clearly. Attraction is not sustained by constant reassurance. It is sustained by composure. When a woman is deeply drawn to you, she wants to know whether the man she desires can carry pressure without cracking, because pressure always arrives eventually in life, relationships, and intimacy. This is where the jealousy trigger comes in. It's a mirror, and what it reflects back to her matters more than what you say. Don't rush to defend yourself. Don't interrogate her motives. Don't turn curiosity into confrontation, because the moment you become reactive, asking who that guy is, why she mentioned him, or whether she finds him attractive, you signal that your confidence depends on her behavior. That is never attractive. A high-value man does not outsource his sense of worth. He doesn't need to compete loudly. He doesn't need to posture. He remains rooted, calm, observant. That calm is not passive. It's powerful. When you stay relaxed, slightly amused, and emotionally unshaken, you demonstrate self-assurance without performance. And that self-assurance carries weight. It tells her you are grounded in yourself, not scrambling for validation. Masculine energy shows up not in force, but in restraint. Not in reaction, but in control of reaction. That is what quietly attracts women who are paying attention. The jealousy trigger also serves another purpose that most men misunderstand. It amplifies desire through tension. When she creates the impression, subtle, playful, indirect, that other men notice her, she heightens her perceived value in your eyes. This is not manipulation, it's instinct. Women are wired to be desired, and when they sense your interest, they often want to measure the depth of that interest, not with drama, with contrast. The presence of competition sharpens focus. It wakes you up. It tests whether you lean in with presence or fall apart emotionally. She wants to see if you'll engage with confidence, not anxiety. If you can attract women without becoming possessive. If you can stay present without becoming pressured. This is where many men misstep, not because they lack experience, but because they misunderstand the moment. Most men fail this test in one of two ways. They either overreact or underreact. Overreacting looks like jealousy disguised as concern. It sounds like defensive jokes, tense silence, or emotional spikes that feel heavy in the room. That kills attraction fast, not because feelings are wrong, but because unmanaged emotions signal instability. Underreacting, on the other hand, looks like forced indifference, too cool, too distant, almost dismissive. That can make her feel unseen, which dulls connection. The sweet spot lives in the middle. You acknowledge the moment without being consumed by it. You recognize the game without calling it out. You stay relaxed. For example, if she mentions how attractive some actor is, you don't stiffen. You don't roll your eyes. You smirk and say, "Yeah, but he's not me." That's it. Light, confident, unbothered. Humor does the work. Confidence carries the message. That single response does more than 10 explanations ever could. Be clear about what's happening here. The jealousy trigger is not designed to make you feel small. It is designed to reveal how you carry yourself when your sense of position is lightly tested. When you pass this test, something shifts. She doesn't just feel attraction. She feels safety. She feels excitement. She feels drawn in more deeply because she senses that you are not easily rattled. That steadiness matters more than looks, age, or status. It signals leadership without control, presence without pressure. That is masculine energy in its most attractive form. A man who knows his value doesn't need to announce it. His reactions speak for him. You must also understand that this moment is not about winning against other men. It's about winning against your own impulse to react emotionally. The real competition is internal. Can you stay composed? Can you remain playful? Can you keep your sense of humor intact? When you do, you position yourself as a high-value man without ever saying the words. Women notice that. They respond to it. They lean toward it. This is how you attract women consistently, not by trying harder, but by standing firmer, by letting your emotional control do the talking, by allowing your presence to feel stable instead of strained. Don't mistake calm for indifference. Calm is engagement without attachment. It says, "I'm here and I'm solid." That balance is rare, and rarity increases desire. The jealousy trigger loses all power over you once you recognize it for what it is. A test of composure, not a threat to connection. When you rise above insecurity instead of wrestling with it, she doesn't just stay interested, she invests. Because she senses that with you, emotions can exist without chaos. Attraction can grow without drama, and that is what keeps her coming back. Remember this: don't compete loudly. Don't withdraw coldly. Be steady, be amused, be grounded. That is how you neutralize the jealousy trigger while doubling attraction. That is how a high-value man moves through moments designed to shake him and comes out more attractive on the other side. This is how masculine energy shows up in real life, and this is how you attract women without losing yourself in the process. If this hit home, don't just nod along, claim it. Drop this comment right now. I stay calm, I stay centered, I don't compete, I choose. Like this video, subscribe for more sharp psychology tricks, and remember this every time tension shows up. Composure is the move. Confidence is the win. 3. The mixed signals test. When a woman is genuinely attracted to you, one of the most revealing tests she uses is mixed signals. Not to confuse you for entertainment, but to measure the depth of your composure, your self-command, and your emotional structure. Attraction does not grow in comfort alone. It grows in contrast, tension, and uncertainty. This is where many men fail without ever realizing it. One day she is warm, responsive, engaged, quick to reply, curious about your life, and visibly present. Then suddenly she becomes quieter, slower, distant, less available. The average man immediately assumes something is wrong, assumes he lost ground, assumes he must fix it, explain it, chase it, or retreat entirely. But that reaction is exactly what the test is designed to expose, because mixed signals are not random. They are pressure, and pressure reveals structure, just like weight reveals the strength of steel. The truth is simple. Attraction intensifies when certainty disappears, when the outcome is not guaranteed, when the emotional climate shifts just enough to see whether a man remains rooted or becomes reactive. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In modern dating, this unconscious test plays out constantly, especially in a world of instant messaging, constant availability, and fragile attention spans, where emotional stability is rare and therefore magnetic. Here is the core mistake men make. They personalize the shift. They interpret distance as rejection. They let uncertainty shake their self-belief. They either overinvest emotionally or withdraw completely, both of which collapse attraction. Attraction does not respond to neediness or emotional withdrawal. It responds to grounded presence. This is where Old Stoic wisdom becomes decisive, because the Stoics understood that power begins with self-mastery, not control over others. When you encounter mixed signals, the correct response is not more effort or less interest. It is consistency, calm, and inner independence. When she pulls back, you do not pursue harder. You do not demand reassurance. You do not seek clarity. You allow space without resentment. When she leans in again, you receive it without analysis, without emotional inflation, without attachment to outcome. This is not passivity. This is strength. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. When a woman senses that her emotional shifts do not disrupt your internal state, something fundamental changes. She realizes she cannot move you with uncertainty. That realization triggers deeper attraction, because certainty in a man is rare, especially today, and rarity creates value. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes applied psychology in modern relationships. Mixed signals are not about manipulation. They are about observation. Observation of whether you live from reaction or from principle. A man with an iron mind does not oscillate with emotional weather. He remains steady. He remains respectful. He remains engaged without attachment. That steadiness becomes the anchor around which attraction organizes itself. Women are drawn to emotional safety paired with unpredictability, and paradoxically, your consistency creates that unpredictability. You are not chasing reassurance, not seeking validation, not trying to regain control. You are simply present, grounded, and self-directed. As Nietzsche said, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. In dating, your why must be bigger than her response patterns, bigger than attention, bigger than validation. Once your emotional center depends on another person's behavior, you lose leverage, you lose clarity, you lose attractiveness. In modern life, where men face pressure from careers, aging, identity shifts, and digital noise, mastering this skill becomes essential, not just for dating, but for life. The same discipline applies everywhere: negotiations, leadership, family dynamics, self-respect. The man who can sit calmly inside uncertainty sends a message louder than words. He communicates confidence without performance, interest without dependency, strength without force. Mixed signals only work on men who lack internal alignment. When you are aligned, the test collapses. When the test collapses, curiosity replaces control, and attraction deepens naturally. Not because you played a game, but because you refuse to be played by your own emotions. This is the ultimate lesson of Old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. Victory is internal before it is external. Mastery is silent. Power is calm. The man who holds his frame without rigidity, adapts without surrendering himself, and enjoys connection without clinging becomes unforgettable, not because he demanded attention, but because he never needed it. This is the essence of Stoicism when in action, the development of an iron mind that does not crack under emotional pressure, that does not rush to interpret, that does not panic in silence, that does not overreact to distance or affection. Once you embody this, mixed signals stop feeling like confusion and start feeling like confirmation. Confirmation that you are operating from strength, clarity, and experience. That is how you win without chasing, how you attract without forcing, how you master not just the interaction, but yourself. And in the end, that is the only victory that lasts. 4. The silent treatment play. Here's the truth most men never hear, and it matters more as you get older and wiser. One of the most subtle psychology tricks tied to female psychology shows up not in what she says, but in what she suddenly withholds. This is the silent treatment play, a move that appears precisely when attraction is alive and curiosity is peaking, not when interest is gone. You must understand this clearly, or you will misread the moment and undo your own leverage. This silence is not rejection. It is contrast. It is rhythm. It is the emotional equivalent of stepping back so the tension can breathe. One moment she is warm, engaged, teasing, present. The next moment, she vanishes into quiet. No messages, no reactions, no signals. Your mind immediately fills the space she leaves behind because the human brain hates open loops, hates unfinished stories, hates emotional static. That is exactly why this works, because uncertainty amplifies focus, and focus fuels desire. Suddenly, you are replaying conversations, rereading tone, questioning timing, wondering if you missed something, wondering if someone else stepped in, wondering how to fall in love without realizing you are already leaning forward emotionally. Don't mistake this for punishment. Don't label it as disinterest. Don't rush to fix a problem that hasn't been declared. This is not about pushing you away. It is about observing how you handle tension when reassurance is removed and that test is quiet but revealing. When a man reacts by flooding her phone, demanding clarity, explaining himself, or trying to force certainty back into the moment, he communicates instability without saying a word. That response weakens the frame of attraction. Panic disguised as politeness still reads as panic, and silence met with emotional spiraling tells her more than any confession ever could. Be calm. Be steady. Be rooted in your own life. The winning response here is not a clever text or strategic delay. It is emotional self-control expressed through action, not reaction. That means you continue your routines, your work, your priorities, your sense of momentum, as if her temporary quiet did not knock you off center. Because confidence is not loud, it is consistent. When she reappears, as she often does, testing complete, you greet her with warmth and lightness, not distance, not sarcasm, not subtle punishment. Resentment is just insecurity wearing a smarter outfit, and that energy collapses attraction fast. Instead, you respond as the man who was never shaken, who didn't need to win the moment, who trusted the connection enough to let it breathe. That response flips the script, because now her silence didn't control you, didn't reroute your emotions, didn't turn you inward. That is rare. That is memorable. That is the kind of grounded presence that separates men who chase clarity from men who create it. This is where psychology tricks intersect with maturity, because younger men fight ambiguity while seasoned men understand it. Female psychology responds to the man who can tolerate uncertainty without losing warmth, direction, or self-respect. You must remember that attraction grows in the space between interactions, not in constant access. When you show that you are complete with or without immediate validation, you demonstrate the very trait that makes intimacy feel safe and exciting at the same time, which is emotional leadership. Not control, not pressure, just steadiness. Don't confront the silence. Don't dramatize it. Don't turn it into a conversation about behavior unless it becomes a pattern that damages trust. A single pause is not a problem. It is information. When you handle it well, you signal that you understand how to fall in love without clinging to it, how to desire without grasping, how to stay present without hovering. These are advanced skills most men never learn. This is why the silent treatment play works only on men who fear losing connection more than they value their own center, and it fails completely on men who remain emotionally aligned with themselves. Calm confidence neutralizes the test without resisting it, and that calm is felt, not explained. When she senses that her absence did not diminish your presence, attraction recalibrates upward, not downward, because mystery paired with stability is far more compelling than availability paired with anxiety. That is a core truth of female psychology that holds across age, experience, and context. Be patient, be warm, be unshaken. The moment you prove that silence doesn't unbalance you, you quietly win, not by playing harder, but by playing less. That is the paradox most men miss when navigating psychology tricks, connection, and how to fall in love in a way that lasts. If this opened your eyes, don't just watch and move on. Like the video, subscribe for more real-world psychology tricks, and share it with a man who needs calmer confidence in his life. Then leave a comment below to lock this lesson in. Comment this sentence to remember it when silence shows up. I don't chase clarity, I stay grounded and let attraction reveal itself. 5. The overattention trick. 5. The overattention trick is one of the most confusing mind games men encounter because it doesn't feel like a game at all. It feels like a gift. While some women create attraction through distance and restraint, others do it through intensity, warmth, and an almost intoxicating level of focus. When a woman is sexually attracted to you, she may suddenly lean all the way in. She compliments you freely. She laughs easily. She texts back fast. She remembers small details you barely noticed sharing. She makes you feel chosen, seen, and important. That level of attention can feel rare, especially for men who have spent years being overlooked, taken for granted, or quietly doing their job without applause. At first, it feels incredible. It feels validating. It feels like momentum. Then, without warning, it slows down. The messages shorten. The enthusiasm softens. The energy that once flooded the room quietly recedes. And suddenly, the absence feels louder than the attention ever was. That emotional swing is not accidental. It follows a well-documented psychological pattern called intermittent reinforcement. The brain responds most strongly not to consistency, but to unpredictability. Casinos use it, slot machines use it, attraction uses it. When something rewarding arrives inconsistently, the mind becomes more focused, more invested, more alert. You start watching for signals. You start interpreting tone. You start replaying moments. That is how desire tightens its grip. And this is where many men lose their footing because they assume the solution to fading attention is to increase effort. They text more. They explain more. They lean forward emotionally. They try to restore the high by chasing the source of it. Don't do that. That is the mistake. That reaction shifts the balance and collapses attraction faster than silence ever could. You must understand this clearly. Overattention is not commitment. Intensity is not stability. When a woman pulls back after a surge of closeness, it is often a test of emotional self-regulation, not a verdict on your worth. She is watching how you respond when the spotlight dims. Do you stay grounded or do you reach for reassurance? Do you continue living your life or do you pause it while waiting for her attention to return? This moment reveals whether you are centered within yourself or leaning on external validation. And that difference matters more than any compliment you ever received. A high-value man understands this instinctively. He enjoys attention without attaching his identity to it. He appreciates warmth without demanding consistency. He welcomes desire without needing to manage it. That emotional posture is quiet but powerful. It signals confidence without arrogance. It signals self-respect without defensiveness. When you respond this way, you are not withholding. You are not playing games. You are simply staying aligned with yourself. That alignment is what allows you to attract women without chasing them. Be present, be appreciative, but don't become dependent on the high. Don't treat attention like oxygen. Don't assume the rise must be maintained at all costs. Masculine energy is not reactive. It is steady. It doesn't spike when praised or collapse when ignored. It stays even. It stays directed. It stays rooted in purpose. That steadiness is deeply attractive because it feels safe and exciting at the same time. It tells her that your center doesn't move just because the room changes. When her attention pulls back, let it. Don't punish it. Don't comment on it. Don't demand explanations. Continue your rhythm. Continue your work. Continue your life. Let her re-enter at her own pace. This is not passivity. This is confidence in motion. And when she does return, you meet her with warmth, not relief. With interest, not hunger. With presence, not pressure. That response tells her something important. Her attention is welcome, but not required for you to feel whole. This is where many men misunderstand how to attract women. They believe attraction is built by proving value repeatedly, by staying visible, by staying available, by staying on. But attraction actually grows when value is assumed, not performed. A high-value man does not compete with silence. He does not scramble to replace attention. He allows space because he trusts his position within it. That trust communicates strength without saying a word. Masculine energy thrives on direction, not reaction. It moves forward regardless of who is watching. When a woman senses that your emotional state does not hinge on her current level of engagement, something shifts. Her curiosity deepens, her respect strengthens, her desire stabilizes, not because you pulled away, but because you didn't collapse inward. That is the paradox. Balance is more attractive than intensity. Stability outperforms excitement in the long run, and men who master this stop riding emotional roller coasters altogether. Don't confuse enjoyment with attachment. Don't confuse attention with intimacy. Don't confuse chemistry with certainty. You must be able to hold pleasure without gripping it. That skill separates men who are constantly confused in dating from men who move through it calmly and deliberately. The overattention trick only works on men who outsource their emotional grounding. It fails on men who remain centered regardless of the weather. This is why the ability to attract women improves with emotional maturity, not clever tactics. Psychology tricks only work when they meet insecurity. They dissolve in the presence of calm confidence. When you remain steady through both abundance and absence, you communicate that your life has weight, direction, and depth. That message lands more clearly than any flirtation ever could. Be the man who enjoys attention without chasing it. Be the man who allows connection without clinging to it. Be the man whose masculine energy stays consistent through highs and lows. That consistency is rare. That is what makes you memorable. That is what quietly elevates you into the category of a high-value man. 6. The competition setup. 6. The competition setup is one of the most revealing psychological tests a woman uses when she feels genuine attraction, and it is subtle enough to expose a man's internal structure without a single direct challenge. Because when she casually mentions other men, references attention she receives, or places you in environments where male interest is visible or implied, she is not trying to provoke jealousy for drama's sake. She is observing how your inner world responds under quiet pressure. And the real question being asked is not, "Will you fight for me?" but, "Are you already grounded enough to not need to?" This is where most men misunderstand the moment and sabotage themselves by reacting emotionally, posturing, explaining, overasserting, or seeking reassurance, when the correct response is none of that. Because attraction deepens when you demonstrate that your confidence is not situational but structural, not dependent on exclusivity but rooted in self-respect. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the heart of Old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. Because the man who stays calm in the presence of competition communicates abundance without saying a word. He signals that his value is not threatened by attention elsewhere, and this quiet certainty is rare, magnetic, and unforgettable, especially in a world flooded with anxious, validation-seeking behavior. When you remain relaxed, amused, and engaged with your own purpose while others orbit, you flip the entire dynamic. Because now she is not evaluating whether you can keep her. She is wondering whether she can keep pace with you. That shift is everything. Women are drawn to emotional stability, self-command, and grounded presence, traits forged through discipline and reinforced through repetition, not bravado. This is why Stoicism win is not a slogan but a practice. Every time you choose composure over reaction, clarity over comparison, and direction over distraction, you reinforce an iron mind that does not bend under social pressure. This mindset is especially vital for men between 35 and 70, navigating modern dating landscapes filled with social media signals, constant comparison, and manufactured scarcity. The competition setup is amplified today through digital attention, yet the principle remains unchanged. The man who knows who he is does not compete. He observes, he chooses, he leads himself first. As Epictetus reminded us, if you want to be invincible, make yourself indifferent to things that are not in your control. That includes other people's attention, messages, or options. And the irony is that the moment you stop trying to win the game is the moment you win it. Calm confidence reframes the entire interaction. It communicates that you are not auditioning, not chasing, not measuring yourself against other men. That energy is deeply attractive, especially to a woman testing whether your self-worth is internally generated or externally negotiated. So the instruction here is simple but demanding. When competition appears, do not tense, do not explain, do not retreat, and do not perform. Stay steady, stay present, stay engaged with your life, your mission, your standards. Because attraction grows where there is emotional safety and certainty only comes from a man who has faced pressure before and mastered his responses. That is why Old Stoic wisdom still outperforms modern tactics. It trains you to be unshaken. This is not about pretending indifference. It is about embodying it through lived experience, through setbacks survived, victories earned, and a life built with intention. When you live this way, the competition setup stops being a test and becomes confirmation, proof that your composure speaks louder than any claim you could make. This is how you move through modern relationships with clarity and power. This is how you master yourself before attempting to master outcomes. This is how you cultivate an iron mind that does not flinch under attention or comparison. And this is how Stoicism win becomes visible in your posture, your tone, your decisions, and your patience. Because in the end, the man who is already whole does not need to prove it. He simply shows up, and that presence changes everything. If you made it this far, you understand the truth most men miss. You never win by competing. You win by staying centered. You don't react, you don't chase, you remain the prize. That calm confidence is what separates men who crumble from men who rise. If this message hit home, drop this sentence in the comments to lock it in and signal your intent. I stay calm under pressure, and I never compete for my worth. 7. The hot and cold intensity game. Here's the truth most men learn far too late, and you must learn it now if you want clarity instead of confusion. When a woman is genuinely sexually attracted, she often slips into what psychologists quietly describe as the hot and cold intensity game, a pattern where warmth and distance alternate so sharply that they create emotional electricity. And that electricity is not accidental or random. It is deeply wired into female psychology, into the way contrast heightens desire and keeps attention locked in. Humans do not emotionally attach to flat lines or predictable rhythms. They attach to spikes, to variation, to the feeling that something meaningful could be gained or lost. One moment she is warm, affectionate, playful, emotionally present, leaning in with lingering eye contact, relaxed laughter, and open energy that feels personal and inviting. Then, sometimes without warning, she pulls back, becomes quieter, slower to respond, cooler in tone, less available, more inward. If you are not grounded, your nervous system interprets this shift as danger, as rejection, as a problem that must be solved immediately, triggering the most common mistake men make in attraction. They chase the heat and fear the cold. They lean forward when things feel good and panic when they don't. They send extra messages when connection feels strong and spiral internally when it weakens. They search for explanations, reassurance, clarity, certainty, not realizing that in doing so, they collapse the very mystery that created attraction in the first place. Don't panic. Don't rush to fix what isn't broken. Don't pursue emotional clarity when tension is doing the work for you. Emotional contrast only becomes destabilizing when you react to it, and most men do. They cling during warmth and unravel during distance. That reaction quietly drains attraction because it signals emotional dependency rather than emotional leadership. Be clear about this. Consistency does not mean emotional flatness. It means emotional stability. It means self-control. It means enjoying her warmth fully without attaching your identity to it, and enduring her distance calmly without chasing it, correcting it, or punishing it. This is the psychological trick almost no one practices, the one that flips the entire dynamic without effort. Because when you remain steady while others scramble, you communicate something rare and deeply attractive: inner balance. That balance is magnetic, especially to a woman whose emotions are unconsciously testing whether you can remain grounded when the emotional weather changes. Attraction is not just about chemistry, it is about containment. When your mood does not rise and fall with hers, she feels something subtle but powerful, a sense of emotional safety paired with emotional intrigue. Don't misunderstand this. She is not trying to confuse you or manipulate you. She is responding naturally to attraction through contrast, through push and pull, through expansion and contraction. Contrast only works when you react to it, so you must refuse the reflex to overcorrect. You must stay present without pressing, interested without clinging, warm without overinvesting. The moment she senses that her emotional shifts no longer control your internal state, something changes inside her perception of you. She begins to lean in not because you chased her warmth, but because you did not disappear when the warmth faded. That is how to fall in love without losing yourself. And it directly contradicts what anxious culture teaches men, which is why it works so reliably. Psychology tricks like this are not about strategy or performance. They are about mastery of self. Mastery of self is always attractive because it creates safety without suffocation and excitement without instability. It signals that you can enjoy intensity without being consumed by it. Notice how the dynamic shifts when you stop reacting. Her warmth becomes warmer. Her distance becomes shorter. Even when she pulls away, she watches quietly to see whether you unravel. When you don't, trust grows, desire deepens, and respect quietly takes root. You must understand this deeply. Attraction does not thrive on constant availability. It thrives on grounded presence. The man who can remain centered through emotional fluctuations becomes unforgettable, not because he demands attention, but because he does not need it. Be that man. Don't overanalyze every pause or shift in tone. Don't interrogate silence. Don't demand reassurance when uncertainty appears. Don't reward warmth with overcommitment or distance with withdrawal. That is emotional gambling, and it always costs more than it pays. Instead, live your life fully. Stay anchored in your purpose. Respond when it feels natural rather than reactive. Let her experience the difference between a man who adjusts his mood to hers and a man who remains rooted in himself. Female psychology responds powerfully to emotional leadership that is calm rather than controlling, steady rather than rigid, confident rather than performative. Once she feels that steadiness, the hot and cold stops being a test and starts becoming trust. This is one of those psychology tricks that sounds simple, but separates men who are consumed by attraction from men who understand it. If you practice it consistently, you will not only understand female psychology more clearly, you will understand yourself more deeply as well. That self-understanding is the real reason how to fall in love becomes effortless rather than exhausting, grounded rather than draining. Remember this always. The goal is not to win the game. The goal is to become the man the game no longer works on. When emotional swings fail to move you, connection stops being fragile and starts being real. That is when attraction transforms into something steadier, deeper, and more enduring. The kind of bond built not on chasing highs or fearing lows, but on quiet confidence, emotional clarity, and the unshakable sense that you are enough exactly as you are, right where you stand. That certainty, more than any tactic, more than any line, more than any performance, is the most powerful of all psychology tricks, the one that aligns naturally with female psychology and shows you how to fall in love without ever surrendering your center. All right, my friend, before we end this video, let's slow down for a moment and really let this sink in. What you've just learned about these 7 mind games isn't about tricks, manipulation, or pretending to be someone you're not. At the deepest level, it's about who you are when pressure shows up. These situations reveal whether you're steady or shaken, calm or reactive. Here's the truth most men never hear. When a woman plays these games, she's not trying to confuse you, she's trying to understand you. She's watching how you handle uncertainty, how you deal with emotional tension, and whether you need her approval to feel confident. A man who constantly seeks reassurance quietly tells the world he doubts his own value. So my sincere advice to you is this: build inner stability before chasing attraction. Learn to pause instead of react, smile instead of overthinking. Stay playful instead of defensive. Confidence isn't loud, rushed, or desperate. It's calm, grounded, and patient. When you stop trying to prove yourself, something powerful happens. Your energy changes. Your words slow down. Your presence becomes heavier. And that's when attraction stops being a game and starts becoming something real. Remember this: women don't fall for perfection. They fall for emotional strength. The man who stays centered no matter what is rare, and rarity creates desire. When you pass these tests, you're no longer just another option. You become the man she feels safe respecting and secretly can't stop thinking about. Thanks for staying with me until the end. Keep working on yourself, keep your emotions under control, and never forget, the man who masters his mind will never be easy to replace. I'll see you in the next video.